Okay, hi. It's Tierra Bonds here too. All right, this is awesome. It's good to have you again. We are just about to start, and we have a few people, so I'm going to try to keep it very open for conversations to talk about because I do know that numbers are always a scary thing. And as I was actually explaining to Gloria with my number, other businesses. Oh, got another person. Tasha, I'm hopefully pronouncing that right again. It's good to see you again. Tasha, hey, Tasha, I think I'm saying it right. I might have to meet you real quick. I'll do that. So, hi everybody. We have a few people. I want to jump into it as 510. And what we're going to do today, as it's said, is go over how to develop a cash flow statement or projection from using Google Sheets. The main thing I want to instill in everybody is you don't have to run away from numbers. Numbers don't even have to be real numbers. They can be something that you put down as an assumption so that you can actually get something started. If you attended the Google Docs class, it's pretty much the same thing. When you're building this business plan or these numbers, they are projections, they're forecasts, they don't have to be right to start with. And that's the main thing I want to put out there. So once we start talking about terminology and numbers, nobody feels too scared. So a little bit about me. Thank Tierra, Tesha coming back. So I'll keep it brief, but my name's Andrew Powers, and I have graduated from Seattle U with a graphic design degree. I've worked at Google and Boeing as a business intern, and I am a level 1 Google educator as well as a level 2 Google educator. And that's partially why I'm teaching Google Sheets, because if any of you have a Gmail account, you already have access to Google Sheets, you have access to Google Docs, and you have access to a whole bunch of free Google programs to help you do business. They've even changed the whole name from Google Suite to Google Workspace. So they're all about work now. I do want to give a brief moment. We have the Seattle Public Library supporting this, and I thank them so much. And we also have Jay Lyman from the Seattle Public Library. He is temporarily away, but he will be back. He is one of our hosts. I appreciate what he's done and how they put on these classes. This is not the only class. If you haven't attended one, there are several classes that happen each week, and this is just one of them. And I appreciate everybody for coming to this one because it's building off of what we did last week, which is about building Google Docs or a business plan, and what we'll do next week, which is about building a Google site. So, financial statements. We will talk about finances, and hopefully it doesn't scare everybody too far away. But what we'll really talk about is the major financial statements, go into a simple equation for cash flow, so it's not too overbearing or high end. And then we'll jump into a Google Sheet just to, is it possible to get last week's recordings? Mayette, yes, it is. I don't know if they're out yet, but when they are, we'll actually be sending them to every person who attended the class, but I will also be putting it onto the website, which I'm throwing in chat right now. If you go to that website, that is the Google site that's been created for these classes. Every time a class is done, like last week, which is the Lean Business Model Canvas, I will put up a new page. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hand, spreading the Red Sea. I'll put up a new page, and that page will have a video representing what the class is about. It will have the slides for the class, and it will actually have the template, which you can copy and do for your own. When I do get the videos for the previous classes, I will be updating that on that site as well. I don't even know who's doing it. Oh, here we go. Jay, he's back. So we are talking about the agenda, financial statements. major financial statements, cash flow, and then we're going to jump in and just start building in one sheet document. So why are we even doing this class? Well, according to US Bank, 82% of small businesses fail because of cash flow issues. And it is definitely true, because when you don't know where your cash is going, you eventually let it bleed out. I don't know if that was the best term, but that's how it feels for your business. So the key factor is getting that data, which is just information, putting it into a document and allowing it to be seen, flow throughout your whole business. That's why they call it a cash flow statement. I don't know. Oh, that's a hidden class. All right, so the three major financial statements, because cash flow is one of them, are balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement. I had a hard time really understanding this at the beginning, but essentially your balance statement is talking about your company's assets, liabilities, and what it owns. So you could say equity. This is something that you use to evaluate the worth of your business. Income statement is your revenue and expenses, or your revenue minus expenses to show profit. That's essentially what's coming in, what's coming out. And then your cash flow statement is to show that flow of cash over time. Now, the major thing is cash is not profit. Cash is cash. Think about your bank account. When you see that balance, that's your cash. But profit is when you actually do the revenue, consider revenue, you minus your expenses to determine what's left. And that can be considered profit. I'm being very vague in the terminology because there's multiple profits, there's gross, there's net. And the real key is just making sure you know that profit doesn't automatically mean cash. So it doesn't mean when you get money in, you can consider that profit. That money then has to be distributed a certain way to pay for your bills, to cover debts, and to deal with all the costs of business. And what's left can be termed as profit or retained earnings. It gets complicated, but we won't dive into that. I will direct you to these wonderful napkin aesthetics because I'm a big fan of this organization. I forget what they're called, I guess Napkin Finance. They do a very simple diagram, as you see, of what a balance sheet is, what a profit and loss statement is, also called an income statement, and breaking it down in a simple way, not to dumb it down, but to break it down in a simple way so that you can essentially see the difference of which one is which and what you would use one for rather than the other. If you do click on these, they send you to this site, which is Napkin Finance. I'm a big fan. Real quick, since I've got Gloria, I've got Mayette, Tiara, and Tesha, has anybody done a balance sheet or an income statement? You can raise your hand, throw an emoji. I see Tiara. Yep. I know you. Tiara's a credit repair person. She's amazing. I'm setting up with her soon, so my student loan credit can be handled. But if I see Tara jumped in, let's just say you haven't done a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement, you don't have to immediately jump into that. Those are obviously essential documents, especially when we're talking about getting financing or loans and trying to show your business and why it would be a good investment. And technically, a cash flow document is used the same way. I would encourage you, especially at this beginning part, to really not think about these documents and financing, even though every time you jump online and try to learn about it, that's what they say it's for. I really like you to encourage you to think of it as a budgeting technique, similar to what Gloria was talking about with her household and how she can budget it and then potentially with those numbers, turn around and see if that can be a profitable business or just see how that cash would flow. So on that same note, there are the two major things I want to focus on is fixed cost versus variable cost. It just means one, like let's say insurance, $21 a month. That's going to be a fixed cost throughout the year. A variable cost could be something like, well, raw materials, hourly wages. These are things that are going to fluctuate based on time, number, and other factors. So with that, we can get into this simple formula. I know it seems simple, it is simple, and this is pretty much what you're focused on. What is your opening balance, meaning what's the cash in hand? What's your expected inflows, meaning what's the income coming in or revenue? And what's your expected outcomes or outflows, which is what are the costs or what are your expenses? That's the simplest version we can get to right now so that we don't get caught up in all of the details and try to overstretch ourselves by going into an income statement or a profit or a balance sheet, because we can just focus on how the cash is moving, because that's really the most important thing when it comes to what your business is doing, how it's doing, and how it's keeping up with that cash or understanding it. All right, so back now, thanks for covering, no problem. All right, so this is what I'll do. I'm copying link to address and I'm gonna throw this in the chat. All right, so what I threw in the chat is the link to this template, which is actually a Shopify template. And oops, that went to me. Ah, got you. I need to send that to everybody. There we go. All right, now what I've thrown in the chat is a Google template, the same one you're seeing right in front of you, which will lead you to this financial worksheet template. And as I click on it, something's supposed to happen. There we go. Awesome. I'm glad it's helpful, Gloria. So I see a lot of you jumping on it. I'm glad. This will make me happy. Engagement. This template, I did not make it, which is probably very good for everybody because it is made from Shopify to be a simplified version of the cash flow document. It focuses on your opening cash, your revenues, your gross profits, your expenses. And then if you start going to the bottom, you see net. Let me make this a little bit bigger. You see your net margins and closing cash balance. That is all we're going to focus on. We're just going to fill in this document starting with January. And what you'll see is this document actually already does calculations. I don't know who that is. Ah, Mary, let's jump right in. Hi, Mary. Thank you for joining us, Mary. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, let me know. But we are looking over the cash flow worksheet template. It's actually a template that was provided by Shopify, and it's a simplified version of the cash flow document to allow people to just start entering information, and the calculations, at least in these gray sections, are already set up to summarize your revenue or summarize your gross profits, as well as all the way down, summarizing your closing cash balance. And if you notice, this number right here is actually the same number here, because that's how this cash flow statement works. It's taking everything, meaning your cash balance, your revenue, calculating your gross profits, and at the very bottom of this well, we'll call it column, it's giving you the cash balance of this. Let me mute that real quick. All right, there we go. It's giving you the cash balance that then is automatically pulled in to the next month. And this is the major reason why I wanted to show you this in Google Sheets, because this is free. You could do this in QuickBooks, but obviously you need QuickBooks. And you could do this with other expensive programs, but Google Sheets, as you see right before you, has this free, I guess, free Excel. I stole the idea from Excel, so I'll just have to give it to him. Free Excel file that can automatically calculate your cash flow as long as you fill in things like, let's say 250, and then other revenue will be 1,000. I'm just filling things in randomly, so it's to not focus on more so the actual details, because I'm making up as I go, but more so to show you that these calculations are already set up to summarize and eventually pull into the next section to show you your cash flow over several months. So I'm going to stop there because I've been doing a lot of talking, and I want to make sure if anything I said or anything I jumped over was something that you want to ask a question on. This is the time before just start filling this out and going off the top of my head. So does anybody have any specific question about what they're looking at? Trust me.
Do.
Go ahead.
So the formulas are already in there?
Correct. There are formulas to calculate the rows above them. So if you see right now, when I hover over this cell, which is in Excel, you say B13 to reference the cell, kind of like chess. But B14, if you look up into this corner, this is actually the formula that's being displayed down here. And what it's saying is it's calculating everything above it from B11 to B13.
And so there is a template, a financial template in Google's. You don't have to make up this template.
Correct. This template was made by someone else, and all we're doing is copying and pasting this into our own Google Drive. In fact, if you go up here to File and you say Make Copy, it will automatically make a copy to your Google account. So
I see.
It will be yours.
Okay.
That makes it so nice. You don't have to create all this stuff and do all the formatting and the formulas. Just use one that's already been made.
Correct. And that's the main thing that I'm really trying to show here is now that you are seeing it, you actually have the ability to make a copy for yourself, and it'll be in your Google Drive. I'm assuming everybody has a Gmail. I don't know, but you can copy it, pull it into your Google Drive. You will have access to it, and then you can start modifying it the same way I'm about to, which is, for example, I'm going to just start picking a business unless someone has a business idea that they would want me to work on when I'm filling this out. Let me know. If not, I can just take one of my many businesses and start applying it into this document. So I'll give a second to see if anybody has any business ideas. And in fact, I guess it was Gloria, you were talking about an at-home business. I'm interested because I'm wondering if it has anything to do with Airbnb. What is that?
Oh, no. I'm thinking of doing some software contracting and in the future. I just did a boot camp, so I'm hoping to maybe do some contracting afterwards. and maybe in the coming year. And I wanted to get a setup so that I could start maybe thinking about some of the things. Like I've taken a few classes, so I wanted to keep track of some of the expenses I might have taken, because I think when you start a business, you can have some startup fees, and then once you start pulling in money, then you can deduct it from that for your income.
Absolutely, yes. There is a startup fund or fee. I forget what it's specifically called, so I can't name that. But there are also, especially for self-employment, educational and development deductions. I do not know how much that would be, but you are absolutely right. That is possible, and in fact, something I'm focused on doing with my online the master's degree. But that's a different story. But yes, you are correct. You can't. So, excuse me for a second. Let's say, that's an interesting business. That one has almost no overhead, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about that. With that business, what are your expenses in your mind?
I guess the expenses would be the utilities that I use, because I think you can deduct them from your home. This would be a home-based business, so I don't know. I know that you can deduct that from your house. Like I have a dedicated space for it, so I don't think I am being charged rent. I'm not 100% sure how that gets calculated. I guess it's a portion of maybe my mortgage, and that's how it gets.
So, and I'm not a financial advisor, so I'll start with that. But I do have an at-home business, and one of the ways that I've sectioned it off is if you have a four-walled room, you can call it a room, and that can take a section of your house. Let's say like mine, I have 1,000 square feet. I have a 200 square foot shed, and that 200 square foot shed can be used as the percentage of the house, or in this case, land that I'm using. That means I can take essentially that percentage of utilities and cost, and basically calculate that to say, all right, for example, I have it here in rent. Let's say it costs me $2,000 per month. I'm going to do a simple equation, equals sum. That's usually how you start the sum equation. I'm going to take that number, 2,000, and then I'm going to multiply it by 0.10%, because that is, that's the
Square footage.
square footage I'm taking up.
Yeah.
And that's how much I would be able to take and say that that's an expense of my business, which is actually expense towards rent or mortgage. It's really better if it's mortgage, but it can be done with rent.
Great.
So,
Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing, because mine's is a very small little space like that in my house that has 4 walls.
gotcha. And I'm not financial advisor, but depending on how many areas you are using, especially if you're storing inventory, you could also consider that as a business activity that's taking up space in the house, and that could also be calculated. These are part of the difficulties of being a self-employed at-home business, because you have to get all those things right. But this is also the reason I'm trying to show you the cash flow projections, because this is when you can start putting it down. And as you saw, I did a quick little equation just to calculate it, and everything's being added up here to show that I'm not actually making a profit right now. But with everything here, we can start looking over the period of years, or this year, and start to see how that cash will need to flow and when expenses would need to be paid, to start determining if this is a right time to start it, do you have the cash to start it, and how in general you're going, how much money in general you're going to have to start to then make your moves. I'm assuming no shipping cost.
Correct.
I'm a stickler about them all being ordered the same way. Now, I think this is actually going to be the biggest one when you talk about your at-home business. I think I heard you really say the equipment and supplies that you're going to have to start with. And I'm assuming that's going to include software.
Yeah, I just bought like a laptop to start. So
So, excuse me. One of
yeah,
the,
I guess we could do something like laptop, like it was like 2,000, and then like software, like maybe subscriptions to, let's say, Microsoft or something like that.
throwing in 150 for a desk. That's what I need.
Mhm.
And you said software.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's about 350 a year.
Yep.
Well, this one gets equipment and supplies, specifically equipment like laptops. There is a concept of depreciation. So normally you spread it out over a period. So let's just do this. How can I have to go? Thank you. I will watch the recording. All right. See you, Maya. So this is the part that I always hate about documents like this, or your financial documents, is there's different ways to do it. I like to be difficult, but right now I won't. So we will put all of the cost of this laptop and this desk in January, but there is a way to essentially spread out the cost throughout the year or over several years. That is a choice. Don't got to be stressed about that choice. Right now, we're just going to put it all lump sum right into this area, and it's probably going to make things look very uneven, but it's just to fill it out. I'm assuming no marketing spending.
No, I don't think so. I think most of it can be online, probably to start with.
Okay, so we'll put 0 for now. I did get a message from Tesha. Let me know if I'm saying that right. What is gross profits? And that is a very good question, and it's a very easy one to answer right here. Gross profits is essentially taking your total revenue and your total expenses, which as of right now, or total cost of goods sold, and subtracting your cost of goods sold from your revenue. Now, the cost of goods sold is usually what it costs you to do business. So let's say this one's hard because it's software, but normally you have, let's say like you are building a product. I'm going to add another row. I'm going to add another row. And then I'm going to move this under so we can have multiple things. But cost of goods sold, let's say you are doing a software-based business again.
Yes.
And you're trying to sell your services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, software is very good with margins because you don't have a lot of inventory. But let's just say you were sending a book that costs $200 to each customer, and you decided to gather 10 on hand so that you could have 10 to actually push out and sell. Well, this is the cost of goods, meaning what you needed to pay for so that you can do your business. And as you can see, once I added it there, our gross profits are in the negatives because your cost of goods are greater than the revenue coming in, or the total revenue. So, no, that was a bit.
Can you put in the parentheses cost of goods sold there, like in parentheses, like making a book or something, just to, so that when we're looking at this later after the workshop, that it kind of jogs our memory.
Awesome. And I was hoping someone was going to finally ask that. So this is the part I love about Google Sheets, is that there's multiple ways to add other information. I always like adding another row and basically putting information here, say laptop or books. I can't spell for some reason. And 10 of them. But that is a very poor way to add information, because you can actually, let me delete that. You can actually add a comment. And I'll do it this way. You go to insert, you go all the way to the bottom, and there is a shortcut there, but I'll hit this button. And now you're adding comments specifically to that cell. So we can say, this is a combination of books that cost 200 and a total of 10.
Oh, great, thanks. I didn't realize you can write comments in it.
Absolutely. And if you're working with a team, you can at people, so you can actually let them know. Obviously, wow, I didn't know I had that many people I could communicate with. But this one, this one I like the most, because, and I'm not selling this, I don't make money from these guys, but it's called MOTE, and it's actually a voice note. So a lot of,
What is it? Can you put that in the chat?
yes. Let's make sure I know what I'm talking about. How to spell it. MOTE, Google Marketplace. So it is a voice note function. It's actually a Google extension. So it works beyond just, oh, there's my chat. It works beyond just Google Sheets. Essentially, it works in Google Forms, Google Sheets, Google Docs, and I think Slides. And
Oh, super.
to add a note, voice note, where you can, and it's actually a voice note. So a lot of, I'm going to stop that because my voice is terrible and I did not know that. But that is a presentation of what you can do to add comments beyond just verbal ones. So to answer that question, Gloria, this is how I would typically add to this information with a comment or a voice note, so that all that detail behind this number is actually there. The other thing you can notice is, because it's a calculation, 200 times 10, every time you hover over it, you can see that number. And in every single calculation, you can see what it's adding up. So if you need to change it, for example, how I added, oh, I guess not that one, how I added gross profits, cost of goods sales. Yeah, this is the only problem with cost of goods sold. It just considered all of this, but let's do this. I'm going to modify this a little bit, add something else just to show you how to modify. So Tesha was asking gross profits. What's gross profits? We talked about gross profits is total revenue minus total cost of goods sold. But at this point, I'm not actually calculating total cost of goods sold. I'm now saying these are books. Wow, can't even spell books. And I'll say this is, what do you send with a book? Oh, bookmarks. And what would actually be 250 in a month? I'm blanking on this, because what would I actually send them with a book? Let's divide that by 100. Oh, actually, 2 times 100. And what would be $2? I'm thinking we're gonna go with what is that clip-on art? Man, I did this with my nonprofit, but I can't think of it. It's basically a badge. So under here, we're saying the badge is $2. You sell 100 of them. This is a bookmark. We'll do the same thing. Say is 150. So that totals you now have a breakdown of these numbers. And instead of just taking that first cell right here, we can do a different, I'm showing you these calculations so you can see how simple it is. It's not advanced math, basically it's subtraction and addition. But if you start with sum and you can click on a cell, it will enter it. And then I'm going to say minus, sometimes I mess this up, but we'll see. B18 to B20. See, I messed up. I guess I can't do that way. So as you can see, I totally messed it up and my computer's going wild right now. But that's fine because you can just Control Z and everything's fixed.
I think you could probably add a row above the 21st one and calculate the gross, like your costs, and then just subtract the revenues from, and that would be easier. That way you could just add those three, 18, 19, and 20 together.
Gloria, this is why I love you. Thank you for that. Yes, that would be the best solution. And as you can see, I started trying to enter the formula in, and because Google Sheets is amazing and is using AI, it already knows that the stuff above, because of how it's formatted, is probably the thing you want. So if you can read that, it's saying, if I hit tab, it will just finish the formula for me. So now we have that cost of goods sold again. We do have a breakdown of what those cost of goods or those goods are. And just like Lori was saying, we can now take revenue and minus this cell, which is cost of goods. And we're still in the negative, but it is a clear example of filling it out to a degree where you can start to see how that's going to flow. Obviously, 2,000, 150, 200, that's going to be a lot, but we can also not stress because this is only the first month. And the whole point of this is to make sure that we're looking at each month as a separate calculation. So we are starting with minus 545, but if we just copy, because the revenue is going to be the same, at least in this case, but we're not going to have the same book expense because we're not going to buy 10 every single month. We'll actually make that 0. The bookmarks might last us for, we got 100 of them. Oh yeah, that's lasting the whole year. And we have 100 badges. So, and this is essentially starting getting the process where you can see, yes, by having a $5,000 budget at the beginning and having a total revenue, you get down here to see all these expenses, and it becomes this huge negative number, which eventually leaves us with a negative cash balance. That's scary to see. That's something most people never want to see. But as you now see with the next month, our expenses can change and our revenue can change. And that means that it's not an example of every single month being the same thing. It's actually a flow from month to month to month to give you a view of how this is going to come out by the end of the year so that you can make judgments on when you're going to move that, how you're going to move that money based on the numbers you put down. So I'm going to stop talking real quick because I saw a few people jump back and forth. So I'll open it up before I just start typing away and add more. Any questions on gross profit? We didn't really talk about all the expenses yet, but I'm going to slow down. Is this still helping, Gloria?
Yep.
Okay. So Mia left, Tessa and Marley. I don't think I was able to ask Marley, but this is the point of this document. And essentially it's all about filling these sections out to then see how it progresses throughout the year. Don't want to dive into details without knowing all making sense so far. Thank you. Perfect, Marley. I'm glad. I don't want to jump in too far without knowing it's helping, but Marley and Glory let me know. So I'm just going to start adding fixed cost, like the rent, throughout the whole documentation. And we can even say insurance, 21 bucks. We'll do the same thing. I'm gonna slow down for a minute. I don't know how many people have used Google Docs or Sheets, but one of the things you can do is you can use your mouse, especially when you're trying to repeat stuff, and just pull it as far as you want, and it will copy it. Which is,
I have a question, and I know you're not a advisor in that way, but for example, like with the insurance, do you also take your house insurance or your place insurance and then take a percentage of it?
ooh, okay, so I do not think you can take your house insurance if it's your house insurance, because unless your house is owned by your business, it wouldn't actually be a business insurance per se. Now, that being said, you can take, you have your own, you have your business. If you own your house and you have a mortgage, and you can actually set up your business to lease or rent from your house, meaning that 200 bucks we're talking about, and you can get business insurance that will actually cover your business as a renter or a leaser at that location. And that business insurance can be considered in here. But if it's just house insurance as a personal house insurance, as a family member or someone living in it, that's not considered a business expense, so you wouldn't be able to take that one.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I actually have been dealing with that myself. The Airbnb, I do have Airbnb insurance, and I'm focused on getting another one, but through leasing with the property, my family's property, then I can actually take rent, take lease, and call that a business expense because it's under the business, which is leasing. Oh, there should absolutely be no banking fees and licensees, but there always is. Now, these fees, banking fees would probably fluctuate. So I don't want to make it too difficult. I was about to try to show you how you can make them fluctuate over
Oh, I guess I could, like, for example, if we were still using an example, like, you need to get like certifications or something. Maybe that's something that I would add into the cost,
Yes,
to take the test for like stuff.
we'll call it continuing, if I can spell it right, education.
Mhm.
And I do like that one because it goes into one thing that's very important, which is at least the way that I'm doing it, we are dictating the cost when they happen rather than costs and expenses or the income when it happens or when it's decided it's going to be happening. So I don't know if I explained that right, but let's say you don't plan to take the class until what is that? March?
Mhm.
We'll put the actual expense here. So let's say $500. And that is not a reoccurring one, or let's just assume that 500 is not reoccurring, but you're going to take another class in July, which I'm tired of doing that. So I'm going to do something and show you a quick little secret. If you click on a row, you can freeze the row. And now when you start moving down, it will always be there. But that looks ugly, so I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, I tried to do multiple rows as well. And I think because it has all those things up top, it doesn't allow you to get the next thing after it.
Correct. Yeah. That's a little special thing about spreadsheets and formatting, which I hate to love and love to hate because it can make it hard to maneuver. But that's the one reason I picked this one over a few others is because I wanted to make sure. Ah, yeah, this is the one function you don't want to mess with.
An idea, you could probably take out line 5 and then it would have the next.
You're saying here?
Is there a blank line so that it gives us more information so that we can look at the, oh, I guess we would need to remove 2 lines, line 2 and line 5, so that we can see the cash balance and opening balance throughout.
Yes, basically all this stuff here. But again, I'm going to do it because this is just a template. This is about messing with it and not being afraid to mess it up so that you can make it what you need it to be. So I'm doing a class right now and needed to be visible. So I'm going to just start putting random number. I hate to do this because this is really based on what you expect your business to do. So I do have a Airbnb, which I would normally fill this out with, but this is the main thing that I'm trying to just present to you is it's not that hard to fill it in. Don't be scared to fill it in. And as I say that, I'm actually scaring myself of not filling in. So I'll do it anyway. Utilities are going to fluctuate, but we will add that. We already have 500. Equipment and supplies. At this point, we will just say 250. Software, that's actually a major thing, but I'm assuming you're going to buy your software in bulk and then for the rest of the year, just using that same software.
Sure, or buy it when I have a little more money. Yeah, like you said, like maybe in the 3rd month I get a client and then I buy.
Got you. So then I know something like Adobe, you're not talking about Adobe, but that one's about 250. So let's assume after April, which is the 2nd quarter, you're projecting, forecasting to actually have a new form of revenue from online sales, which is going to be higher than 250. Let's say that actually starts in March. And your in-store and other revenues. I do hate for things not to be spelled out like other revenues. So for me, these columns under revenue and gross profit get pretty large. But again, don't want to scare people on that concept because you don't have to. You can just put in these numbers to make sure that you're starting to see and forecast when expenses are going to be coming in, when revenue is going to be coming in, and pretty much your assumptions, because that's all what, at least at this point, that's all it is, an assumption. But putting that down allows you to understand what you think is going to happen, and then each month you can actually put in the correct numbers and it will automatically update. As you saw, once we got to April, well, we started seeing a continual amount of profit, or at least opening cash balance, shouldn't say profit, because of the change in online sales. That is important because, and I think I said in the slide, I'll just go back to it real quick. Nope. Costs before profits. The number one thing I want to instill in everybody is think about your expenses and your costs before you think about what is profit, because again, profit's not the cash here, it's your revenue minus expenses. And that can only, you can only really see that after you get down here, which is what we're calling net profit margins, and looking at your net profit or your net loss. I didn't even talk about taxes because I only have a few of you here and I don't want to scare anybody away by talking taxes. But since you've stayed long enough, we can actually go down to this section and talk about taxes. Quick question. How many individuals are self-employed or running a small business and basically are running it as a LLC, which is usually considered self-employment? I'm assuming Gloria, oh, Gloria left. Oh no, she's there, I bet. You open an LLC, Gloria. Okay, perfect. And the one question, not yet, Mommy, but hope in the future. Okay. Well, the one thing about an LLC, I have an LLC as well. You can actually, on a federal level, it doesn't even exist. You're either a sole proprietor or you're a corporation. So that's the funny thing about an LLC is you can actually be a LLC, but you're taxed like a self-employed sole proprietor, which means you're double taxed, or you can set it up as a S Corp or C Corp, which means you're taxed like a corporation. Won't get into too much details, but if you are a or if you consider an LLC of self-employed or sole proprietor, you're pretty much at that 15.6% tax because it's, I think, a 7.3 tax of you and then, or tax of your business and then tax of you, and you pretty much have to put that together and that's your total. So that's what I put here for a tax. And it's really taking B10, which if I can scroll up, which is your total revenue. And, oh, my bad, it wouldn't be taking B10. I'm silly. It needs to be taken at net margins. So 39 right there, which, you know, you wouldn't be taxed for it because it's a negative number. But that calculation can be spread out. So you're always looking at what you're actually going to owe in taxes, and that gets taken out of as a earnings before interest. You take your interest, you take your taxes, and that's your net profit, which ends up being your net profit or your net loss. I like that it's built in so you don't get surprised when you have to pay it. Absolutely. And I'm a fan of that too. Gloria just said she likes that it's built in, meaning all of these functions are built in so that it's doing the calculations for you so that you're not surprised when you have to pay it. And that sentence right there is what this is all about. It's understanding that your cash is going to flow from one to next month. We're doing a year period, and making sure you're not surprised by any extra expenses because you're keeping on track of your expenses, your revenue, and seeing when it's going to be a net loss or a net profit, so that when it comes to paying off something, let's say for your rent, you need to pay later because you're not going to have the cash, or you're not going to have the ability to pay it. You can talk to a landlord. You can actually negotiate, or you can try to get a invoice in sooner. This is how you'll know how to move, and really how your cash, which is your lifeblood of your business, is moving, so you can make the right decisions. And as Tessa says, tell your money where to go. Absolutely. So it is 6:06. I wanted to start opening this up because I have 4 people I trust. Let's say that, trust. And right now, you all have an ability to comment on this document. But what I've just done is open up the sharing of this document so that anyone with the link can comment, and that's where you guys are. I'm actually going to open it up so anyone with this link can edit. Done. And if you were to refresh this browser, meaning refresh this page, you should be able to jump in and start adding and editing. And I want you guys, almost like, I don't know, I remember in like kindergarten, I didn't go to kindergarten, I was homeschooled. I think Mayette, she already left, but she was talking about homeschooling. So I was homeschooled. I only got to play with my brothers and stuff like that. So, but this document is open for everybody to jump in and start adding, just to see and practice on adding stuff and breaking stuff, so that you do not feel like you can't do it, or that it's going to be broken forever, because it's just a Control-Z away, and it's also not real. It's just a map. It's an assumption, something you can add to. So I see 1 person, 2 people, 3 people clicking on jump in. I do like that, because I would like for this to be a collaborative thing, but I'd also like for everybody to know that they don't have to do these documents alone. They can collaborate with other people. And if you remember, you can make a comment by going to insert, comment, or by using your special keys. In this case, I got a Mac, so Command Option M. And that's how you can type in stuff to explain what you're leaving and why that number is that number. So there's other revenues. I never really explained this. We'll say software investment revenue. Ooh, okay. Yes. There is. I am glad you brought that one in. So this is a simplified version of the cash flow document. Let me do something real quick so I can get back. Oh, someone left. Is it Jay? Oh, Jay, don't leave. Investment revenues, there is a the normal cash flow, actually, this is a simplified version, but it has 3 sections. You have your operations, you have your investment, and you have your financial. And you're really calculating your revenues, or basically what's coming in and out in all 3 sections. And that's the larger document. So I love that you're jumping into the investment revenue. If you have any investment revenue, I am a fan of you. That is a great thing to have. And just so you know, there are deeper documents, or more complicated level to this that will actually hit on that as well. But again, just keep adding, because this is not a dead document, it's a live one. Thank you for your info session and making it interactive. I have to get going, but sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you, Marley. Appreciate it. I do always want to make these active because I think, especially in this era right now, we live in a very collaborative environment, as long as you know how to collaborate through, technology. So this is badges at $2 each, and 100. And honestly, the biggest thing about doing this document is I dislike the fact that none of these items, meaning your badge, your bookmarks, or your books, have their own information. It's just a number. It's not actually attached to a file. Well, that can easily be done. For example, let's say bookmarks. What's that site? It's with some sort of octopus. It's branding material. I forget. It should come up because they're like the #1 Vistaprint. That's not what I was looking for, but we'll jump on that. And what did I say? Bookmarks? Let's see if they actually got it. Oh, yep. Yep. Because I know my stuff. All right. If my computer was a little bit faster, I could have just got this information, clicked on it, and let's say, didn't I just say 100? Okay, so that's 46 a unit. Browse details starting at $55.99. Let's see how I can bring this information back. Choose one of our templates. I'm making this longer than it has to be, but trying to get this bookmark and its numbers back into the Google Sheet. Let's see if I can do that. All right, that's too complicated. Let's go back to you. And I'm going to, yeah, I'll just explain this one out. You can insert a link by going to insert and going to link, or by holding down Control K or Command K, and it will give you an option to paste the link. So I'm pasting it right there. And now this item called bookmarks actually has a link attached to it, which sends you here. So those prices that we're talking about, or more so that item that we're talking about, has a number. I think someone accidentally erased the numbers here. But again, that's fine because it's a live document and stuff like that can, oh snap, what's happening here? I think the number's still there, but it's invisible. How did you pull that one off? Well, I can show you something pretty decent in case someone comes in and raptures your data. There's an ability, because we're using Google Sheets, to see the versions, meaning how many different changes have been made. And from there, you can see almost second by second or change by change what was made, what was changed, and when it was changed. And if we were all on the same team or company, we'd be able to actually see who changed it. So, you know, we could point fingers. So see at 6:13, it was changed, meaning folks bookmarked and all that. And it's technically still there. So what I'm going to do is just restore this version, which is going to mess up everybody's work. But that's the point, is if you want to make changes, you want to revert back, you can't. And this is why we use Google Sheets. And not worry about too much messing up, because you have that control to go back and forth and what you want to do. So I messed up everybody's work, so I apologize for that. I will actually go back into versions and restore it back to whatever you guys are doing. Around 6:14. I just wanted to show that off. Oh, did I kick everybody out? Oh, I guess it's refreshing on everybody. So
I made a copy of for mine after I edited.
oh, perfect. I'm glad, because I'm messing with this one just to show you guys what's capable. So I don't want to I don't want you to get too frustrated, but I'm just making all these changes or reverting it back. But the main thing I am trying to show you is, even if you get lost in everything you're doing and forget where you made changes and how you did, you can always revert it back. Can those data be displayed in graphic also? Interesting. Okay, so Tesha asked if the data can be displayed in graphics also. Well, the answer is yes. Now, based on how this information is, formatted, the question would be how to display the graphics. So let's do this real quick. I'm going to grab these, which is column A, revenues, and column B, which would be January. I'm going to right click, and I should be able to, thought it would be easy enough from here, but it won't. So I'm going to say insert chart. And what it's done is taken what we just saw me select, which is column A and column B, and use column B as your number range. and column A as your column range or graph. I forget what they call it. Sorry, data range. So that's one way to do it. Did it very simply. So it was taking the smallest amount of data I could just to show it. And I'm also going to make sure it's not in the way. So I'm moving it to its own sheet. And now you can see that there is a new sheet called chart 1 that's taking that specific data and displaying it. And that was relatively easy. And if you wanted to change that, you can actually go up here where it says edit chart and start doing a whole bunch of different, that's terrible. A whole bunch of different changes. This is simple data, so I don't really know if it's going to show you any decent changes.
Ooh, maybe we can try and do our revenue each month and see if it's gone up or down or something like that. That might be kind of fun to do.
Actually, the revenue each month. This might be a lot for one chart, but we'll see. And that does not display in the way that I want it to. Area is not that great. So that is a weird number to look at because it is taking January to June and splitting up into a graph. But my brain cells won't allow me to run the chart function or think about how to run the chart function in a way to value that other than just taking total revenue and making a chart off with that. But that is how you would make a data be displayed in graphics also, which is something Tesha was asking.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I'll try and play it on that.
Gotcha. Okay, so we are at 6:22. I just wanted to start cooling down, seeing if there was more questions on this. I know I kept it very untechnical, but I also wanted to get to this point where people felt like they could copy their own, they could play around. They knew that they shouldn't be afraid of even messing up these numbers because you can always revert it back. And what I will do after this class is I will add a section to my website that focuses on this specific area, which is the cash flow. And I will have a link to this template, but I think it would probably be very important if I made sure to have, what do you call it, shortcuts to commentary and version control so that people aren't scared of messing up their documents because they know they can always go back. I think I was just speaking out to myself with that one, but any more questions in regards to this document, cash flow overall? Because I do want to make sure everybody has their questions answered before we start cooling down and setting up for the next one.
I just like how this can help you avoid, problems, down the line and help you kind of model in, money coming in, money coming out, and kind of estimate what you think is on the horizon and sort of plan assumptions around that too, of wow, if I'm having to buy, to grow this business, if I have to buy a piece of equipment, at 6 months in, what are the implications financially to monthly payments, on that thing. And so then modeling in what that does month to month, so that you can really get a handle on the implications and make decisions based on stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, you just said it all. It's really about having the model to see where things are going to go, how it should flow, so that you can make those decisions in the future and you're not surprised by them. So, don't want to take everybody's more time than we've taken, because I appreciate everybody coming. There, Matt and the rest that were here, and I will start to just present what's happening next, which is one of my favorite classes. I know this one was numbers and it was a lot of spreadsheets, so I thank you for sticking with that. The next one is going to be on Google websites, or how to make your own website for free using Google Sites. It is the ability to actually make a website that can be published or viewed by anybody, and it is one of the easiest ways to construct your own site. To demonstrate that, I created my own website using a Google site. You can go to www.blackfoxstudios.org, and it will present the Google site, which is actually the website in which all this content that we're talking about right now is going to be. I didn't even link it. That's a terrible host.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I tried to access it, the link from your sheet, and it says that I need access, but is that, do I need a different link?
The
Oh, I'm
link-
wondering if it's the one that I copied from your, that you gave us here. Let's see. Let me
so-
try again. Should I try, if I want to look at the recordings, it should be the .org. Is that different from the one that you created? That's linked in the spreadsheet?
Let me get this little speaker thing out of my way so I can look. So you're saying linked in the spreadsheet, you're talking about the spreadsheet, the financial worksheet we're all in?
Yeah, that we were in. I think you might have deleted your little logo in the follow-up one, but I tried using the link that was in the Black Fox Studios. You had a logo in the spreadsheet and I clicked that, but I think that must have gone different from the one that's the blackfoxstudios.org.
Yes, actually, you might have caught me because I just updated the URL to actually link to blackfoxstudios.org. Normally, it is andrew.blackfoxstudios.org, but it actually links to the exact same website, and that's what I'll be able to show you, or anybody showing up to the class next Monday, is how to make your Google site, how to make custom URLs like andrew.blackfoxstudios.org, or how to make naked URLs, which is essentially your domain or your domain name, your regular www dot, go to the exact same site. So,
Do you have a link to that class or where to sign up?
ooh, you are testing me every day. No, give me, I think I do.
For our
And
next one, next week,
for next week.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
yeah, because I think when I last looked, I'm kind of new to taking the classes, and so I can't remember where I actually went to sign up for them.
No worries. I got you.
Okay, Jay's got you. Yes, because my computer is
Okay, there's the date and time and the link. Link is there.
Oh, terrific. I really appreciate that.
I'll also give you the link to the main place where all of them live. So we have these, and then we also have some with Tierra Bonds, who was here earlier, who's teaching classes on personal credit and how to like hack your credit score and get a better score so you can get a better business loan. So those are happening. There's one tomorrow, and then one also the Tuesday the 29th. And then we have some other things on the horizon too. So
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
you bet.
Yeah, maybe I'll see you at that website one. That sounds like it would be lots of fun.
Yes. It'll be a lot more entertaining than this one. I appreciate everything coming to this one. Talking numbers, doing cash flow. It's yeah. I've been up at 2 a.m. in the morning doing itemized sheets, and it's probably the most boring thing I've ever done, but very, very important because then you can see what the future of your business is. So I appreciate you guys. Tesha, Lori, who are still here, I thank you for coming. I really am excited about the Google Sites one because I've made over 50 Google Sites. And at this point, I can definitely call myself an expert. And hopefully in the next few months, there will be an additional component which will allow you to make Google Sites extremely fast in a most professional way. But that might have to wait till next year because
Oh, yeah. Can I ask you just if you have, do you have like one more minute or because I'm curious because I bought a domain and I'm wondering if there's a way that I need to prepare it so that I can hook it up if when I sign up for that class.
Okay, so you bought a domain. Did you buy it through Google Domains or some other?
No, it's like name.com.
Gotcha. Okay, well, for hooking it up to a Google site, it does take certain steps. But I can pair some of the steps now that I know that you're interested in that prior to the class, and possibly I'll look into that aspect of taking a domain outside of Google and applying it to Google site. It is definitely able to do that, and it's definitely possible. I will just have to
Sure.
do it for a class so that I can show you.
Oh, appreciate it. Great. I'd really love that. Thank you. Okay,
Would
What?
you like?
go ahead.
I was just going to suggest, why don't we go ahead and say goodbye to our captioners and thank them. Thank you, captioners, for being here today. And I'll also turn off the recording. So if you are watching this after the fact, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you for the class. It was terrific.